All right, what is going on? How you doing? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Talking Buffalo podcast. I am Patrick Moran. Thank you very much, as always, for locking in. Audio side, Spotify, Apple, the video side on YouTube. Appreciate all you guys. It is Wednesday. That means this is going to be the fourth of a 5-week series, 7 rounds, Buffalo Bills mock drafts, which of course means, like he's been here for the whole way, my man, Aaron Quinn from Cover One, who is a tired Aaron Quinn from Cover
super tired,
One.
man.
He's got, Aaron's a dad. He's got young kids who aren't feeling very well. And
it's nice here. It's been sunny in Western New York here the last couple of days. And they, even though they're not feeling good, they can't stop playing. So we just got some overtired kids. You might hear them in the background at some point tonight. If you hear somebody screaming, they're okay. Their safety is not being bothered. They're just overtired kids, man.
Like I've said this before. If you listen to this show regularly or watch it between Joe Yurt on Fridays with the fire trucks or Chris Baker with the dogs, nothing new. It wouldn't be a podcast were it not for that. Let me tell you, before we get going, and by the way, like I said, this is going to be our 4th of 5 Bills mock drafts. If you haven't been following along, go check out the first 3 because they've all been to some extent different, but in other ways, they kind of been the same because we've been circling back on a lot of guys. We'll see if maybe we might try to switch it up a little bit tonight. But if you don't know, Aaron, along with Eric and Greg from Cover One, are all going to cover the draft in Vegas, which is really cool. I'm really happy for you guys.
Thank you. Appreciate that, man.
So I want to talk about, there's a couple news items regarding the Bills that happened since we last did our mock, and we'll see if maybe that might change a couple things up. I'll ask you about that in just a minute. For that, though, how into you now? I know how into it, I should say. Are you with the MCU universe, like all the movies, the Marvel movies?
Yeah. So, I used to actually be really into comics as a kid, like into the comics themselves. And then I was kind of one of these fans that when the MCU stuff started coming out, like don't want to be a picky fan, but I know that I'm a little bit that way. So I kind of like just didn't really watch the stuff because it was so hyped up. So I like took my time. I was like, I'll wait for it all to come out and I'll watch it all through. And I had seen a few, but then recently, right after the season to start, that was kind of part of my coping process with that Kansas City loss was I watched it all in order, at least in the order it is on Disney Plus. Okay. I watched it in order. So recently, just like last month, I just went through the whole series and watched everything. I haven't watched all the TV shows yet, but all the cinematic stuff.
That's what I'm doing literally right now. I found out Doctor Strange 2 is coming out on my birthday, favorite, May 6th, at my actual birthday. And you know how I am. I work from home, so I have a lot of time to do stuff at home while I'm working.
Right.
Like I did the big Christmas binge. I've done I did all the Oscar movies. My new thing now is I'm going through, I looked it up online. In fact, just this morning, there's 27 movies, Marvel movies, chronologically in order, not the order that they were released, but chronologically at how to watch them. And I've already knocked off the first 2. Now, I've watched most of them before, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm new to the MCU fandom. I don't understand a lot of it. I didn't read any of the comics. So some of the movies I did watch and pay close attention to. Some of the movies I kind of watched loosely. Like I watched it with somebody, but I didn't really pay all that much attention.
Right.
And then a handful of them I like literally never see. And the first 2 in order that I saw today was Captain America, the First Avenger. That's number 1, which I like that a lot. And then I watched Captain Marvel just before we started taping, which was only a couple of years ago, 2019.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna post some takes on Twitter because I like doing that shit.
Are you watching the shorts with them? There's like those little short films in between. Are you watching on Disney Plus? I'm assuming.
No. I'm watching it on my Secret Service.
Oh man, on Disney Plus they have all the shorts additionally, so it's like little 15-20 minute sort of skits in between the movies.
Oh, really?
That is part of the timeline. They're pretty cool. Not all the fans like them, but I enjoyed it.
I never knew that. But yeah, so I'm watching them, and like I said, I'll have some takes. I power rank everything. I'll end up putting them together. But that's my I'll give you listening or watching. That's my new fun project that I like to binge.
Well, whenever you're ready to do top 5s, top 10s of that series, let me know. I'll tell you right now. I don't know if you've seen the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff, but
I know I've seen at least there's 2 of them, right?
Yeah. 1 and 2 are
I've seen 1 for sure.
Yeah, I think they're the best 2 in that whole universe.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, you'll love the soundtrack for that at the very least.
Yeah, I know I watched at least one of them, if not 2. But like I said, I also paid attention loosely, in part because I was kind of lost in a lot of parts and didn't understand. But I figured by watching everything chronologically now and reading along as I go, I'll.
Did you do that with the Star Wars stuff?
I'm not a Star Wars guy.
Really? Because that actually surprises me because you're like that late 80s. Like you love
here's
all that stuff.
Here's an embarrassing confession, Aaron. I watched the original Star Wars, like the original movie, what was in the late 70s. It's the only one I've ever seen. I've never watched any of the other movies, none of this TV series, none of it. Just the original Star Wars. It's the only one I've ever seen.
You should do that. You should do that binge next.
You know, it's weird. That kind of stuff, that genre doesn't really do it for me. Just like with Game of Thrones.
What do you mean? What genre? It's not sci-fi. It's like fantasy.
It doesn't. That too. Either or. Which is weird because Game of Thrones is like on my Mount Rushmore of TV series of all time.
And Harry Potter, is Harry Potter's up there for you?
No, not really into that. That's what I'm saying. It's really weird. I don't Lord of the Rings, don't really watch that either. But yet, like I said, Game of Thrones was awesome, and I'm fascinated by the MCU stuff. So I'm really gonna dig in and try really hard to get into it. Like I said, I got 25 more to go. I'll rank that shit 1 through 27. Forget about
right. I know you will.
Forget about top 5. One other thing too, I was going through Snapchat right before we started recording. There was a concert last night in Buffalo. It's not music that you and I are into.
Wait, hold on. Pump the brakes. You're on Snapchat? Is that what you just said?
Yeah. Well, you're on TikTok. What's the difference?
Well, I mean, yeah, but I'm a lot cooler than you. I'm supposed to be on TikTok, hip with the kids. I didn't realize you were hip with the kids.
You guys are doing. By the way, you guys are doing. I like what you guys are doing at Cover One with TikTok. That's pretty cool.
Thanks.
I've seen some of Greg's ticks lately too.
Yeah, he's done a good job. There's been a little peer pressure for Greg and I to start doing it, so we're trying to be a little more active on our TikToks. But it's just another way. The thing that I like about it is a quick way to like record a thought. Where Twitter sometimes is hard to like really type out a nuanced thought, and TikTok at least gives you're still keeping it quick and allowed to post it out there. It gives you a video platform to do. So
it's quick consumption for people. I like it a lot. I think you guys are doing good.
It just drains all my attention whenever I get on TikTok. It's like 20 minutes. Yeah.
I'm trying to learn I have TikTok too. I don't know who the hell I'm kidding. Like,
right. Come on.
This you, I put it. I open it up and start swiping before I go to sleep, and the next thing you know, it's been 90 minutes later because I'm looking at funny videos and music and all kinds of stuff like that. But I was going through Snapchat, and what I wanted to ask you was not ask you. Well, I kind of want your take on it. So a friend of mine went to a heavy metal concert last night. One that you and I wouldn't really be into. It was like Trinity of Terror. It's heavy metal, and
it's not my style.
Not my style either. But here's the thing. So I go through one of my friends and their snaps, and it's just a concert going on, and like they recorded the whole thing. It's like you're spending so much time basically.
Doesn't it disappear?
Well, it does. But my point is this. Well, even just say you're shooting video. Forget about Snapchat. You know, you go to concerts and people always got their video and they're recording everything. Doesn't it kind of like take away from the enjoyment? That was my thought. It's like, doesn't it kind of take away from your enjoyment of being there in the moment when you're so focused on recording videos and posting them during the concert? I had thought of it. And then like literally before we hopped on together, somebody on Twitter, this girl, Charlene, I really don't know her, but she had a point like that. It's something along the lines of, people who just record these snaps, like enjoy the concert that you're at. You know what I'm saying? It's like these people just, I don't get it.
Well, there's some clout in being there, right? Like,
I can see one picture or one quick video, but I'm talking like I watched about 15 minutes of a concert, which I didn't like. I mean, I was swiping through it anyway, not really paying attention. But
attention's quite a drug, though, for a lot of people. And if they're getting attention from doing any type of content, they're going to do it. I mean, it's a little bit what we do as content creators. People just take it to different levels, right? You're on the internet. There's going to be people that take it too far. So I think there's probably some of that behind it. But yeah, and then just people want people to know that they're out doing that kind of thing. But I think about it. I'm recording my kids all the time, and I have that same thought. I'm like, wait, shouldn't I just be enjoying them and like playing with them versus recording that?
True.
You know what I mean? Like there's a mix of it. So I think we're all guilty of it to an extent. That's the cool thing about the Masters. So Masters, they don't allow any phones or cameras or anything like that. You just got to go and sit and watch golf. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. Certain events, there's some artists that don't allow cell phones at their shows.
A lot of comedians. A lot of comedians, they don't want their content out there. Yeah, 100%. By the way, if you're watching this on video, or if you're listening, I should say on audio, you couldn't see it. Aaron seamlessly, like a pro transition, when his kid came into to your podcast room right now.
He's in trouble tomorrow.
You handled it like a pro, man. It was awesome. Anyway, Ari, let's jump into a couple quick Bills items. Then I want to get right into this mock. things that happened since we recorded our mock last week. And the big one is Stephon Diggs resign or not resign. He was extended, got a 4-year deal. I think it was like 103 million. I don't know what all the particulars are. I don't have them in front of me, and I really don't care. I guess my point that I wanted to ask you is, in our last 2 mock drafts, we've taken Chris Olave in the first round because, well, primarily because he's fallen to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Does Stephon Diggs, knowing that he's going to be here for 4 years, because, I mean, let's be semi-realistic here. I don't think either of us thought Stephon was going anywhere anytime soon, but you have it in the back of your mind that they don't do something this year and then come next year, maybe it becomes a problem, and who knows? Never say never. We saw Devontae Adams change teams. We've seen Tyreek Hill. That wasn't something that we thought would happen a year ago, and it happened now.
Sure.
So my point is, we didn't really talk about that, but it's in the back of your mind.
Sure.
And but now Stephon is locked in for 4 years. Does that change your approach if you're Brandon Bean, or for the purpose of our mock that we're going to do soon? Does that change your approach whatsoever on when and where you might take a receiver in this draft?
Not for me. I mean, depending how the board falls, if receiver's, in my opinion, the best player on the board, I'm still taking that guy. Only in this world that I live in of mocks where I'm seeing players, right? Like where I have players graded. I don't know where the Bills are, but if, say, I have a round 2, I'll take a guy in round 2 or mid round 2. But I'm not going to jump and take him at 25 if there's a receiver that I had a first round grade or closer to a first round grade on that player. I'm going to go with that guy. So that hasn't changed one bit. I guess the only thing is, you know, there's still that money out there if they address cornerback. I think that would be the only thing that would change priority wise when I would want to get a player is if they got, say, a Stephon Gilmore or a Bryce Callahan to go this year. Then I would feel a little bit better about the scenarios we've been doing, which is maybe a 3rd, 4th round type guy to be behind a vet and developing. You don't need to feel that type of urgency or panic to say, hey, I can't take Olave because he's there, because now I have to reach for a corner to fill that role. I think if they can fill this vacancy here the next 2 weeks at that veteran cornerback position, that's the only one that really would change my view of how we have to approach this draft.
Good point. To your point, I don't think they're going to sign a corner before the draft. I think if anything, it might come after the draft.
They probably have some deals at least already. Hey, if the draft doesn't work out the way we want to, we'd love to offer you this deal and we'll do it before we pack up in Vegas. You know what I mean? Like have those deals already in place.
Well, all right. So Stephon is extended again. And I had to ask you, but I figured that wasn't going to affect your draft thinking one way or the other. The other news item this week that at least I think anyway, is worth hitting on is literally so Stephon Diggs, that extension was announced in the morning. That same day, it's reported that Jordan Poyer is looking for a new contract. It's reported that Drew Rosenhaus is his new agent, which, again, the timing, coincidence or not, but that comes out literally the same day as Stephon gets his bag. And, of course, and I'm not going to get into all the tweets, and you probably don't even see him because she's probably got you blocked anyway, but Rachel Bush had a bunch of tweets, basically just talking her man up. He's an all-pro. He deserves money. He deserves to get his, just like everyone. I'm paraphrasing, just like everyone else's. Now, I will say this. I get why a lot of people don't like Rachel Bush. I understand, and I'm not defending a lot of what she tweets about. I will say this in her defense, though, Aaron, to be honest with you, she's tweeting about her man. She's tweeting her man up. I got no problem.
It's not for me, it's stuff like my wife doesn't use social media at all. So I don't know how that feels in a relationship, but I would think I'd want my wife supporting me. Like what the tweets that I saw people blasting her for.
They weren't that bad. They weren't. They really weren't
bad, man. That might be the type of relationship they have where they openly just support each other all the time. And nothing she said was wrong. Right. Like he's taken decent deals and he's played hard for the team. And I think he's earned more money. I think all those things are true. And we've seen Stephon Diggs now get renegotiated with 2 years remaining on his deal. He had to still play out that deal, which is similar situation Jordan Poyer's in. And I understand it's a work environment at the end of the day, man. If you see somebody get a big pay increase and you feel like, hey, I'm one of those guys, like that's my peer. I'm one of the team leaders on this team. I'm one of the reasons this defense has been as good as it is. I also would like to get that type of treatment. I understand it's a human nature thing. And I hope he does. I really hope they get something worked out with Jordan Poyer here. I'd like to see him. I think he's got at least 2 to 3 years of the same type of productive play that he's had, which is incredible. That's incredible value to me. It makes a ton of sense to keep him here. So I hope he gets it. But as far as the tweets and stuff, I will say I've had issues with some of the stuff I've seen Rachel Bush tweet in the past, and I've gotten into it with her. I'm not a huge supporter necessarily, but none of that stuff had any inkling. I think people were just piling on because they already don't like her.
Because they already don't like her because of her tweets about Florida being, the greatest state in the world, and her political views and her views on COVID and all that stuff. But yeah, in this case, she's supporting her, man. I had zero issue with any of that. She was tweeting her own stuff. She was retweeting a lot of fans, pretty much.
People got mad. She deleted something. I'm sure, man, I'm glad we're not famous people. That's all I got to say. And that, every mistake.
I've always said I'd rather be rich and famous. I would rather be rich from a business venture than I would because I was an actor or a famous musician or something like that. I've said that just
when people
times.
Are paying attention. You know how many tweets I've said something sort of stupid or I worded in a dumb way, and a minute later I'll go through and just you know what, I'm going to delete this. People aren't going to get it. That happens to real people too. That happens to famous Instagram models or famous people. They tweet things and it doesn't have to be more than it was. I think people just ran with that. It was a little over the top.
Well, let's tie this potentially into the draft because here's where I'm going with this.
Safety.
Now, safety is not something we've thought about much early in the draft, although we did have a discussion about linebacker and safety in previous weeks. You never know, they might be preparing for the future. I still believe right now today that Brandon Beane will draft with 2023 and 24 and 25 as much in mind as he does this year.
Sure.
When you say, all right, so Jordan Poyer, it comes out, he wants a new contract. He's got a powerhouse agent now. His wife's tweeting, which say what you will about her, but she's got a voice in that relationship. I promise you that they're making decisions together to some extent, at least anyway. So does Jordan Poyer deserve a deal? Yeah. I mean, who's going to say no? If you're saying he doesn't deserve a deal, then what are you watching? Sure. He's an all-pro, literally, not a Pro Bowler. He's an all-pro. Okay, right. He's one of the best in the game at his position.
And it's his position that ages well.
Yes.
And his age is not his true age when you look at the mileage that he's put on his body.
Right.
That's why I think he could do another. So say it's a 4-year deal with an out somewhere in the middle where that if the wheels fall off this thing, Brandon Beane can get out of it, but that maybe it's really a 3-year deal. And the 4th year is just some padded stuff where you're going to get the next 2 to 3 years out of an all-pro guy that's hanging on in a position that ages gracefully. And you could probably get Hyde to stay, give him a bump in the next year. There's going to be some money comes available. You get those guys for even 2 to 3 more years while this window's open. That's pretty massive, and let them finish off their careers. And then you have a buffer for filling that in, either letting a DeMar Hamlin continue to develop or bringing in a guy in this year's draft and give him a year or two to develop before you have to make that transition. We don't want that transition to be a real quick one. Linebacker, I'm at the point where I don't think it's ideal to move on from Tremaine Edmonds, but if you had to replace that guy this year, I think if you kept Poyer and Hyde and Taron Johnson, all the pieces around him, Matt Milano, I think you could get away with that, where that safety position I think is too crucial, where you just want to keep it intact for as long as we can.
I agree. And here was my point, though. Is he deserving of a contract? Yes. We're not debating that. Can it get done? Yes. However, I don't think it's quite the slam dunk and quite as easy as a lot of people think it is because of some of the other things that they need to do, or at least they have to think about doing, whether it's giving Ed Oliver long-term money. Maybe they like Tremaine Edmonds. In fact, I know they like Tremaine Edmonds more than most fans doing a lot of media do.
Sure.
And then you got Dawson Knox, who really came to his own last year. He's becoming a star.
Yeah.
So you got those guys. I'm not even going to mention Devin Singletary because I think it's much easier to move on from a running back with a second contract. Sure. So for the purpose of this discussion, we don't even need to talk about him. But my point is you can't pay everybody. And I know Greg, your partner Greg from Cover One, he came up with a diagram and he showed a way that the Bills can easily get an extra $44 million on the cap next year, just with 4 different restructures to start.
Yeah, and that's just next year. Yeah,
that's just next year. But now you're talking at some point, you're going to pay the piper. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think they can pay everybody long-term deals.
We don't know. We don't know what the new cap's going to be. Those numbers
Okay,
haven't come in yet. Like, it's going to go up. Like, things are going to continue to go
true.
up. Josh Allen's going to have those big restructures, things that they're going to have. I think the window is going to be open a little longer than people think. I think guys like Brandon Beane, the way he staggered these contracts continuously, I think it opens him up for opportunities to cut bait on players and when he needs to and get some of that money back when he needs to. So I think this window in terms of how far they can manipulate the cap for how long they can, I think it's wider maybe than we think. Like, the Saints are probably still going to field a good football team this year, even as bad as that cap situation is. I'm not saying the Bills are anywhere even close to what the Saints are into, and I think you can ride that out a lot longer. People think, Packers will be another super highly competitive team. Like, you can ride this cap situation out for probably a decade before you have to really pay the piper type thing.
This is where it's kind of unfair when we do mock drafts, where you got guys like us who are content creators, as opposed to Brandon Beane, who's privy, I'm sure, to a lot more information than we ever will be.
What their plans will be for the future, right? Like, we need to get a guy.
Right. He has a better idea. He probably knows a lot better than we do where Jordan Poyer stands.
He knows what he's doing with Tremaine.
Right.
I
he
guarantee
knows,
you.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. He knows what it's going to take. I think it'll be very telling come draft time. If the Bills take a safety in the first 3 rounds, I think that tells you that Jordan Poyer's future beyond this year is not a slam dunk.
Yeah.
That's what
one of the two. One of the two.
Sure. So we'll find that out soon. Again, we haven't really messed around with the safety position in our first 3 mocks until late in the draft.
Like, we took special teams guys.
Yeah, right. But we haven't said, all right, because just last week we took Quay Walker in the 2nd round, and that was a very likely Tremaine Evans replacement. We haven't done that at the safety position yet. All right, so let's review last week's mock draft, and then we'll jump into this week's. So this was mock draft version 3. Chris Olave, the wide receiver from Ohio State, was their first pick. And by the way, we've taken him in our last 2 mocks at 25. Quay Walker, a linebacker from Georgia. A lot of people were surprised by that. Cam Taylor-Britt, who we've taken all 3 mocks at this spot in round 3. A corner from Nebraska. Rashad White, a running back from Arizona State in round 4. Lasita Smith, an interior offensive lineman from Virginia Tech in round 5. The punter, Matt Araiza, from San Diego State in round 6, which, by the way, we're going to talk about that in a minute. That's not going to happen. Not in round 6. And we found out why he was still available on the draft network. And then Smoke Monday, one of your favorite names of the draft. Safety from Auburn, we took in the final round, the 7th round. So we'll jump right into this mock now. And like I said, we are going to do the same thing. No trades this time. And let me open it up here. Again, this is where I have trouble struggling because my eyes are goddamn blind. I got it all set up.
I have to squint to see.
Can you see?
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
You're good. I can't see well. All right. And again, before we get started real quick, I'll remind people one more time. Typically, I actually prefer that you listen to the audio because I think it sounds a little bit better than the YouTube side. But when Aaron and I are actually doing these mocks, if you get a chance, pause it on the audio side and you want to jump on YouTube, you'll be able to actually see what we're doing as opposed to us just describing as best we can. But anyway, same deal as always. We're using the draft network model. No trades because it's just a pain in the ass, quite frankly. The machine is a pain in the ass. And we'll get started. So we're off and running. Again, we've taken Chris Olave in the first with the first round in both of the our mocks. Let's see if he's going to be
Jets
available
got Hutchinson in this scenario. I don't like that. Don't want him.
Garrett Wilson's off the board at 11.
Yeah.
The receivers are
Trent
going.
McDuffie's gone at 18. Elam, Kyrie Elam gone at 21 to the Patriots.
So the Bills are going to be on the clock here.
Yeah.
And all right, so now for a 3rd straight week. Now Aaron and I kind of discussed this before the mock, and I got some ads up on the screen. I can't help that.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm sorry. Anyway, let me ask you this because we kind of talked about it before we started taping. Let's try to figure out another scenario with Chris Olave, in part because he's been available on the draft network model, but in every mock that I've seen, for the most part, he's been gone by 25.
Right.
So let's approach this draft operating as if he was gone. Okay. You want to do that for this week?
Yeah.
Let's review some names that I know Bills fans are really familiar with that maybe might have went earlier in the draft. Like I said, Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver, went to Washington at 11. Andrew Booth Jr., who I've seen mocked to the Bills a couple times of late for whatever reason. I've seen a couple where he slips. Not in this one because he's gone at 13 to Houston. Drake London, receiver, gone, 15. Jameson Williams at 16. Trent McDuffie, a corner who's gotten a lot of talk about the Bills. He went to Philly at 18. Kerry Elam, corner, went to New England at 21. Good. I'd be happy if that happened. Zion Johnson went to pick before, interior offensive lineman, to Dallas. So now the Bills are on the clock here. And I said, for this week, let's pretend Chris Olave's gone and let's operate from there.
All right. So just at the top here, I honestly, I don't know if I'm Brandon Beane, what am I doing with Tremaine Edmonds? But if Devin Lloyd's sitting there at 25, it's tough to know that that's an existing thing coming up in the future, one way or another. Like, we either got to pay Tremaine or move on. If you were even on the fence about moving on, this sort of would be something that would give you the opportunity. So maybe we've heard some of the idea that he's been making calls about veteran players, talking about moving up in the draft or whatever it is. Brandon Beane's often involved in phone calls about potentials that could happen. I'm sure he's talked to teams about what a trade for Tremaine Edmonds would look like just from a negotiation standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he has a deal already lined where he would be able to take this, get on the phone, ship out Tremaine, and make it sort of a one move transaction type of thing. So I would be into Devin Lloyd here. But let's see what else is there. I'm not as big as here. Jahan Dotson is available. A lot of people I know really like him, love his hands. I'm not as high on him as others are. That we're like Olave. I know for the sake of this one, we're saying he's not in. But if Olave is there, it's hard for me to say no to him. Where Dotson, even though he's graded similarly here, just doesn't do that as much for me. Who else is here? Treylon Burks is another guy that people are pretty high on. I think you could go with him here if you wanted. Lewis Sine here, Georgia. That would, I think,
is this your Jordan Boyer replacement?
That would maybe indicate where you're going. Hey, I believe so. Our guys, the air raid, our guys, Tilt Money and Mathis, are both doing a tracker. They're tracking all the top 30 visits, Senior Bowl connections, different interviews and stuff. And he was one of the guys that was in on the top 30 visit already at the safety position. I think that raised some eyebrows that a guy that's projected in the first round, maybe early second, is one of Bill's top 30 visits. So that is something, right? So I think if we go back up here, do we want to be crazy and take Tremaine Edmonds' replacement right now and get this over with and peel that Band-Aid off, or do we want to take more for need?
I would say this. If this draft was real and this is the way it played out, it would have taken me a half a second to take Devin Lloyd. It would have been done deal. The reason why I'm hesitant is almost because, although it's not our fault, it's beyond our control.
It's tough to see this scenario.
Tell me a scenario that, have you seen one? I've never seen one scenario where until tonight where Devin Lloyd's available. Yeah. My thinking was, because I've thought plenty about Devin Lloyd. We talked about a little bit last week.
I'd love to do it.
Cody Walker. It's like, I think you would have to trade up to maybe 15 to 17 to have a realistic chance to get him.
Sure.
And now he just fell in our lap at 25. I almost have a hard time buying it.
I mean, anything's possible, I guess, in these scenarios. You never know. Yeah, I have not seen him typically out here, but there's a bunch of guys that we saw go a little earlier here. Elam, like if some weird things happen where a team jumps up 8 to 10 spots to take, Elam, it takes a couple extra quarterbacks. Guys come up the board and take some of these quarterbacks that probably don't belong in the first round. Some weird stuff could happen. I don't really think I see that happening, but hey, if the league doesn't value the linebacker position enough where it pushes him back, I would absolutely entertain this conversation. But the thing I keep coming back to is it is a conversation that involves another transaction. So it's not one that you can just run up and say, okay, well, we'll figure it out later. You have to know that you have some ability to move on from Tremaine clean right now and get something for him, or have that plan already in place, because it's just a tough needle to thread,
Sure. Well, what do you want to do?
Let's do it. I don't have to deal with Tremaine Edmonds tonight and his agent, so let's do it. Let's take him and then let Brandon Beane deal with
Okay, so in a shocker, folks, Devin Lloyd, who most have projected going somewhere between 10 to say 17, has fallen down the board, which unlikely, but it does happen.
But people are saying that about Olave, right? Yeah. Olave is not supposed to fall to where the Bills, but he's still here on the board. Somebody's going to be.
Right. And so what I'm saying is this isn't unprecedented. This could happen. All right. So I'm going to make that pick. The Bills are going to be on the clock. While we're getting up to the second round, I'm taking a real quick break and be right back. More Buffalo Bills mock draft version 4, my man, Aaron Quinn. Be right back. All right, I'm back with Aaron Quinn. We're rolling along here. The Bills are about to be on the clock with their second round pick, 57. Again, we are doing no trades today. And we'll get to the Bills are about to come up on the clock now, and we'll look at a couple picks that went.
Bunch of dudes already like off the board. I hate
everything. Just to recap, guys that have went recently, Roger McCreary to corner, went 55 to Arizona.
Tyler Smith, interior offensive line, like him. Isaiah Spiller, Texas A&M.
Yeah, he goes
He's
to Philly.
Gone.
Trey McGride's a tight end. Now, I believe that I think he was one of the ones who had visited the Bills. I've heard something about some sort of connection with him, which is a little bit surprising, quite frankly. But anyway, he wouldn't be an option because he's gone at 49 to the Saints. Kenyon Green, a guy who I personally think the Bills might consider in the first round, depending on how the board falls. He went to 48 with Chicago. Tariq Wooden and Kyler Gordon, 2 corners. Yeah. Going by this, so Aaron, if you really want a corner in the first 2 rounds, I think if you don't go one in the first, like say a guy like Lloyd falls to you, or Olave falls to you and you really like him, and you say, I can't pass up on these guys, the value's just too good. I think if you want one of these corners, like a Wooden, a Gordon, this exercise is showing me that I think the Bills will need to move up in round 2 to go get one. I'm not sure that you could sit at 57.
Assuming these are right. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I think to some extent they will be. Anyway, Kenneth Walker, running back.
Kenneth Walker, he would be a perfect Ravens. Goes to the Ravens.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Sky Moore,
of course,
was off the board already.
Yeah. All right, so now we're up there, and the top.
I like a lot of guys already that we're looking at here. Brees Hall would be a guy that I'd happily run up the card for. Get that running back guy that we talk about. Sean Ryan is a interior offensive lineman. He just had I think top 30 or virtual visit to the Bills. I think.
Now he was a tackle who could play guard. I've read up on him. I remember him. Yep.
George Pickens is actually a wide receiver I don't hate taking here in the second round. He was a beast at Georgia. That injury is a little bit concerning, but you have the best training facility in the country, and so let a guy do that. Dylan Parham, interior offensive line out of Memphis. This is another guy I would take here happily. If we scroll down, if we didn't already take a linebacker, say we
Chad Muma's
went a different way. Yeah, I think Chad Muma would be nice there. John Mechie was just in town for 30 visit as well.
Receiver for Alabama. Yep.
So receiver Alabama, that might be a case in point. They seem to be targeting this sort of second round here. So let's see. Nothing. I think anything else we could probably come back up for or do something for. So I guess it depends where really positionally we want to go. It's hard for me to think Hall will make it to the second round. Honestly, I think he's a first round type talent, if not early second round. So it's hard for me to see him there and not grab him. But I know you're also kind of high on interior offensive line in this draft process. Is there anyone on the interior offensive line that you got to walk away with in this round? Or
I've read up on Ryan from UCLA.
Yeah,
I like him. I think he's a guy that you could bring in kind of like Spencer Brown last year. Yeah, he develops for a year, and then maybe that's your answer for Roger Saffold in 2023.
Yep.
An inexpensive guard is a position. Again, we just spent a lot of time talking about Jordan Poyer and Dawson Knox and Ed Oliver. And, Poyer, well, maybe you can sign them all. And if you do, you damn sure better have some starters that you're not having to go on a free agency and pay $4 or $5 million for on 1-2 year deals. So you want to try to find a couple guys who could start next year. But again, Hall, he might be a starter as a rookie, but he certainly would be a starter in year 2 of Singletary walk. So value-wise, either of them would make sense.
Yeah, I think you can get rid of that Singletary contract in the future and not have to pay a guy twice by getting a running back. You could maybe get that running back later. I also think there's a good amount of, at least the way these things have fallen for us in the experiments that we've run, there's some good interior offensive linemen in a round or 2 available too. So that's something to think about where the running backs do thin out a little bit. There's some guys that you can take, but it's more of a projection. With Hall, I think you can plan on this guy should be able to be what Devin Singletary is now, productive starter in the NFL, where a lot of these other guys, it's a projection. Like maybe they can be a third down back. Maybe it can become more than that. I think for me, I think just where I value the prospects, Hall right now is the best player on this board, in my
let's
opinion,
take him
by quite a bit.
Let's take him again. It's very similar to Lloyd. My bigger problem seems to be I don't
He's
think
not
Hall
going
will
to
be
be
there
there,
at
right?
57.
I don't
Just
know.
like
I hate to
don't think
say it. I
Lloyd.
hate to say those absolutes. Like, there's no way this guy, but it's hard to think.
Well, Aaron and I aren't cheating. We're not cheating. This is the way it's falling to us because, man, I can't imagine the Bills being more happy to be able to come away with Lloyd and Hall. Although, to your point, you better have a backup plan for Edmonds.
Right.
Lloyd, I think
Calvin
Lloyd,
Austin went
even
off
as
the
a
board right
rookie,
before
Lloyd
that.
is going to be more than just your AJ Klein snaps, even as a rookie. You know what I'm saying? So I think at that point, you're getting rid of Edmonds and trading him for something, an asset, maybe a corner, maybe a veteran straight up. Who knows? All right. So the Bills are around the clock at round three, pick 89. If you want to, Calvin Austin Jr. is a wide receiver.
Calvin Austin Jr. was one that I was hoping maybe would fall to us. That would have been an easier
two
pick for
picks
me.
before.
Yeah. Who else here? Just scroll down. Nothing. None of like guys that I've been targeting necessarily around here. John Mechie would be a guy that maybe hope would fall a little bit later. You take Sean Ryan, went to Jacksonville right before that. Chad Muma, that linebacker that we could have been targeting if we hadn't, at 69. Dylan Parham at 67. So those interior offensive linemen came off the board pretty quick.
Yeah.
So we're kind of banking on that a little bit later here. So in thinking about, wanting to walk out of this draft with one of those interior offensive linemen, right? One of the things I kind of like to do with this pick is we've been taking Cam Taylor-Britt a bunch. I'll be happy to walk out of this draft with him over and over again. This is another scenario, though. The more I get into this draft, the more I fall in love with a guy like Cam Taylor-Britt, the more I don't see him getting out of the second round. I'm not going to lie. I think he's a second round prospect, and in all these drafts where we're all getting him in the third round are going to make us look silly when he goes somewhere in the mid-second and doesn't even make it to Buffalo. So we'll see about that. But he's there now, right? We keep saying that. So, but scroll up a little bit. Nick Bonito, edge out of Oklahoma. This was another guy that was visit with the Bills and supposedly good interest. Our guys at the Air Raid Hour were pounding the table for him in the chat, saying that this could be sort of, you pair him with Von Miller and really sort of more that style of dominant pass rusher type guy. So this wouldn't be a move for right now. This would be, hey, we don't want to keep chasing old veteran guys. Push a guy like
goodbye to AJ Epinesa. If you take a defensive
at least pushing
end in the third
them,
round,
you're pushing them, right? It's him and Shaq Lawson fighting for that very last spot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I don't know. That's a guy I would consider there. We already took a running back. Otherwise, I would consider Cook is there. James Cooks is right there. But we can walk out of here with Cam Taylor-Britt again. I would absolutely be ecstatic to leave the draft. He's my favorite player.
I told you, we might take him all 5 rounds. By the way, side note, James Cook, Georgia, is like the entire Georgia roster, like a top 3 round pick right now, because it feels that way, man. It's like
that
every
defense,
time
dude, that defense is stupid good.
We took Cam Taylor-Britt. We can't not take him when he's on the board.
Emerson's another guy. He's going to be going right there to the Bengals. That would be a guy maybe taking this area as well. Bonito went off the board there at 99. Cleveland. Yeah. James Cook gone to KC. You'd hate to see that.
Yeah. The one, I don't want to say criticism, but the one thing that I have gotten a lot of feedback from friends and people who watch and listen to the show is that we haven't addressed corner enough. And I don't agree with that. I think if you get a guy in the third round, the way Brandon Beane seems to have a value on CB2 in the position, and Joe Biscaglia has talked about this and wrote about this on The Athletic, I think they just have a much bigger premium on the safety position. Like Joe Biscaglia was talking about, if the Bills are going to trade up
position, they prioritized.
Yeah, he said Joe could see. He said something. I'm paraphrasing slightly, but he said something along the lines of he could see the Bills making a big trade up for Kyle Hamilton more than he could for any of the corners in the draft. I just found that interesting anyway.
Yeah.
But all right, so we're here in round 4, pick 130. This is where we've kind of mixed it up a little bit. Like I said, Cam Taylor-Britt went in the third round on every one of ours.
So let's see here. Some guys, Zion McCollum went to the Ravens. He's a crazy toolsy. So this would be the guy that your Spencer Browns, your Doyles, these guys that are just like the RAS is off the charts. They just test as good as you can at a position. He would be one of those types of projects. Wandale Robinson, if you scroll up, would be a guy that maybe could become your Crowder replacement in a year. Could be that Cole Beasley role at some point in the future, but maybe solidify that slot on a rookie deal. He would be a guy right there. Scroll down a little bit more, maybe Brian Robinson. If you scroll, up a little tiny bit.
Jets.
Brian Robinson Jr. Yeah, to Jets. This guy, man, he's not the kind of back that gets a lot of love nowadays, but like the guy just is always falling forward. He's always upright. And the DMs I had mentioned earlier today that I thought Isaiah Spiller reminded me a little bit of Fred Jackson in that his contact balance, just like the guy seems to just bounce off a contact. He always stays upright. Even when he's running kind of tall, guys just bounce off of him. Robinson is also reminds me of that in his contact balance. So he could be like a really good productive back, but we've already taken it back here today, but that would be a guy. Alec Pierce is another wide receiver that I would love. So there's a lot of talent that's already off the board in this round. This might be.
We have a wide receiver in this draft, so we haven't addressed that. So
yeah, we haven't done.
Yeah, now we're in round 4. We talked about this before the draft too. The punter, Matarazia. This would be the earliest I think we'd be allowed to take him, or the latest, I should say. We got him in the 5th round last week. That's, from what I've read, that's not going to happen. He's a potential day 2 pick, certainly a 4th rounder.
This guy can't even hold, right? He can't even hold kicks.
I think we talked about, dude, I can't remember what we talked about on the air and off the air. We talk so much now, but I think we said that we weren't going to take a punter this week. We said we think it's so obvious that they're probably just going to get someone in off the street, a guy who's kicked for another team.
Honestly, I think it'll be the whole. Yeah, it'll be the whole.
Yeah, so who knows? We're not going to take a punter this week, folks. Okay. Not doing it. So
scroll down then. Let's see what we got. Kyron Williams would be a guy we already took a running back. Pierce is another guy that I like. So there's a couple of running backs to think of. Jones Jr., Velus Jones Jr. sitting right there. That'd be hard.
I think he's visiting the Bills. I think I read that he's visiting some. I thought it was the Bills. Maybe it wasn't the Bills
officially. Yeah,
he's visiting somebody. I almost tagged you on Twitter.
It's draft.
I saw Pro Football Talk had a tweet about him today, and I almost tagged you in it.
Scroll up from Rashad White would be a guy if we again didn't take running back. Maybe something to think about. Holding off a week or two, I think we could get some good talent at running back still that would do exactly what we're looking for out of that position. We took it more of a luxury in this one. Kobe Bryant, I'd be cool with continuing to double dip with him at that position. Where people are saying we didn't put a priority on it, but I think we double dipped twice at corner in this draft process. I think we're a little too far now for Cam Jurgens. We're a little too
low.
A little too low here.
Although last week, I remember he was gone in round 5 when the Bills were on the clock. I do remember that.
That's true. So do you have anything to say?
Well, you like Jones, and we haven't touched the receiver yet.
I would say for me it would be Jones or Kobe Bryant. I would feel totally cool about double dipping on corner. And Adam Jones wouldn't be a problem for me. People don't like his age. I don't have any problems with his age. So I would. For the sake of this one, let's go with Jones and see what happens.
All right, so Switch it up. Jones Jr., wide receiver from Tennessee, 4th round pick of the Buffalo Bills.
He's going to be your returner immediately.
And we're off to the 5th. Now, we got a way to go, and I'm watching as these picks go. I really like Cam Jurgens if he's there in the 5th.
Yeah.
We got him once in the 5th, and last week he went before the Bills were on the clock in the 5th. And we're now into round 5. And so far, he's there. There's Rashad White, went to Chicago. You talked about him. In fact, we took him last week. There he's gone. Yep, he's gone. He goes to Minnesota at pick 1.
Kobe Bryant almost lasted too. Dang.
Yep.
He's gone.
Casita Smith is gone. So those are 2 good. I'll tell you, Smith and Jurgens. Again, part of doing this, the fun of doing this exercise for several weeks, is I start to get an idea of where I like these guys. And
at least
if you don't address interior offensive line and you want to, if you get to the 4th round, if you like Smith or Jurgens, I think you'd have to pull the trigger, because I think there's a pretty good chance that by the time you get to the 5th, they're going to be gone. Now, maybe if you do trades, you might want to trade up from the 5th into the late 4th or earlier in the 5th, and then you might be able to get one of those 2. But anyway,
next week I got a challenge for us, because it's going to be our last week next week, right?
Yep.
The whole show is just mock drafts. We'll do 2, but let's pick a different networks, like PFF or PFN's
Sure.
mock draft simulator, with all we know and the ones we've done, and you have the historical of like where we've been able to pick guys, and let's see how different those boards fall.
See if it screws us up.
Let's see if it just totally screws us up.
Sure.
Because I think it's an interesting part of the practice of you get so used to playing with this mock simulator. Like I have a pretty good idea where guys are going to be on this mock simulator, and I guarantee you the NFL draft is going to be nothing like. There's going to be a bunch of guys that just scatter all around these rounds. Even if this thing is 60% accurate, that's not good enough to make assumptions of where all these guys are going to go. But so I think it would be a fun exercise to, since we've been buried in this mock draft board, to see how different it is to somebody else. And then we can come back and do a final mock on here. Is that an agreement?
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
All right.
So Smith and Jurgens are 2 interior offensive linemen that I would have loved in the 5th round. They're both gone. We already agreed we're not taking Matt Ariza. He won't even be there in the 5th anyway. So let's operate from there.
All right. Let's see. Oh, okay.
It gets harder because a lot of guys that we like that have been around in this spot are all gone right now.
Yeah. This is tough.
Maybe they're paying attention to our mocks and they're getting these guys drafted earlier now.
Get them away from us. Isaac, scroll back down. It's probably a next round pick, but I like Thomas Booker a little bit there. I like Isaac Taylor Stewart a little bit there. Scroll up here. Let's see. Or it's our 5th. Damon Clark, maybe. You could take a flyer on a linebacker at this point. I think you'd be okay there. Pierre Strong Jr., we already took a running back, but this would be another opportunity to do that. Yusuf Corker, if you want to address your safety position, maybe that's an opportunity to get a guy I like a little bit. I mean, I'm just starting to get into the safeties, to be honest, after the Poyer news. I've just looking over the last week, so I'm not too strong on say that everything I've been looking at for safeties has been more the idea of, hey, can this guy carve out a role on special teams? So I think we're still good there. So here, scroll. Are we all the way up? Just take the punter. No,
can't take the punter. Not in the 5th.
We can't take a punter. I still think he could be there, but I'll trust you guys. All right, scroll back down a little bit. Let's go with, man, this might be my toughest one yet. Scroll down a little further.
I think in part because we've did things that we didn't expect, like taking a linebacker in the first round was not something we expected to do.
Right. Let's go with scroll down. Let's take Stewart. Isaac Taylor
Stewart, a corner. All right, so we're going to double down.
It's a bit of a reach here, but we'll take 2 corners.
Isaac Taylor Stewart, a corner from the University of Southern California. So
I like this though, man. Honestly, like if there's a position in the NFL nowadays that you should walk away from every draft with multiples, in my opinion, it should be corner. Like you should add 1 or 2 of these guys every single year, hoping that one pans out. And gosh, if you're lucky, you get 2 of them to be productive.
And let's not forget, man, the Bills are thin at corner right now, and their best corner, one of the best in the league, is coming off an ACL. So
the second corner you take, the second corner you takes 1 snap away from potentially playing, right? If they don't address it in free agency, and you go in with, say it's a 1st rounder, 2nd rounder, and then you're probably going to have to double dip just to get enough depth, unless you trust your Nick McLeods, you trust your Cam Lewis's to come in and play on the outside. I don't know if you do or not.
Yeah. All right. So
where are we at?
The Bills are here. Pick 185, round 6. Corker is the safety you talked. He went to Houston. Just a couple picks for Pierre Strong. A running back went to the Giants.
Not much.
Yeah, we've admittedly hit the reach part of this draft right now. Now it's time to just figure out. And by the way, going back to corner, I think even if the Bills say if McDuffie falls to them, or they really love McCrary, they take him in the 1st round, they could go round 1 and come right back in round 3 on another corner. That wouldn't shock me whatsoever.
Nope.
Anyway, all right. So, but we've taken 2. So, any
more
of these names ringing a bell to you?
No. I'll keep scrolling here a little bit. Man, I don't love how this board is falling for
There's
us.
a guy we talked a
let's take Wanye or Chris Paul. We can take either. I'd be happy with Chris Paul or Wanye Thomas. Let's take Paul for the sake. Did we already take an interior offense? No, we did not do that.
We have not touched it yet. So
we missed out on Jurgens. Let's get Paul.
All right, I think we might have taken him right I think in the 6th round, maybe in the first mock as well.
We've
So
taken him, yeah.
Chris Paul, an interior offensive lineman from Tulsa, is coming in. He's going to compete
This
for
is
a
a dude
job.
that's played tackle in the past and is projected to be a guard at the NFL level. So he's got a little bit of positional versatility as well, and he's got some athleticism, but he can also be a big, mean guy. So I like it. I think,
Hey, the punter just went off the board, by the way.
There you go.
To Jacksonville, of course.
Yeah, right.
So the Bills are on the clock here.
They're going to do plenty of punting. So
this is late round 6, and then they're going to have one more pick in round 7.
Yep.
So we got 2 more picks here. Well,
let's take Thomas.
There's no discussion here. Wanye Thomas, a safety from Georgia Tech. You've liked him a lot.
I do like him a lot, man. I don't think he'll be a Jordan Poyer replacement. I think he'll be a special teams guy, and maybe he can be what we've always wanted Saran Neal to be, which is really good special teams guy that can also contribute on defense, but I don't think you plan on it in the 6th round.
All right. Well, Wanye Thomas, safety from Georgia Tech, is our second last pick, and now we're coming up on our last pick. Let's see. Jalen Naylor is a guy that I think he's still on the board, or did he just go? He just went to the Chargers. Heard you talk about him. That's the fun part of this exercise. Later in the draft, I'm starting to recognize a lot more names because they're guys that we've talked about or guys that you've brought up and then I've read up on afterwards. All right, so we've come up now. Bills are on their last pick.
Let's see here. Scroll down a little bit. Oh, let's see.
Not a heck of a lot here,
Smoke
folks.
Monday's my guy, but that's not going to go safety back to back. Let's see. Not a lot of pickings. I'm sure there's guys here that I'm just looking over that haven't come on my radar yet. Let's scroll up. Let's take let's take Myron Tagovailoa.
You know what's funny is he plays for my team and I still can never pronounce his last name.
Yeah, I don't know his last name.
Tagovailoa. He's an edge guy from Notre Dame. Let's take him. Let me get a good look here just in case this board, because the first time we did this, if you can remember, the board screwed up on us and
I think it was you. I think it was a user error. You didn't like it.
All right, so this is about to be done here, and they're finalizing the draft, and then we'll run through our picks.
It's not my favorite one. It's not my favorite draft of ours.
I'm going to tell you why it's not my favorite. There's only one. It is my favorite in terms of what we got. It's not my favorite because I don't believe in it, if that makes any sense. When you took Chris Olave the last couple weeks, I felt like that was reasonable for him to be there because I think 3 receivers for sure could go ahead of him.
Sure.
Possibly 4. Ain't no linebacker going ahead of Devin Lloyd. And I'm having a hard time believing that 24 teams are not going to take the best linebacker in the draft. A guy that could go as high as 10 to 15, like I said, around that range. So I have a problem with that. And I have a problem with Bryce Hall being available at 57. But anyway, let's recap. All right, so the Bills took linebacker Devin Lloyd in the first round. Running back Bryce Hall went to Buffalo, pick 57 in round 2. Cam Taylor-Britt for a 4th straight week is a Buffalo Bill. We got him in round 3.
It's going to break my heart. The more I take him, the more likely it is the Bills are not taking him.
This has gotten to the point. It's gotten to the point where one of my favorite things is going to be on night 2 of the draft is seeing where Cam Taylor-Britt ends up.
You know it's going to be like my Terry McLaurin, where they just didn't take him and he goes on and he's great.
How much will that suck if the Bills haven't picked a corner yet and he goes like 2 picks before the Bills pick at what is it?
Why would you even put that out there? Yeah.
All right, let's continue here. 4th round, we got Velus Jones Jr., wide receiver from Tennessee. 5th round, Isaac Taylor Stewart, a corner from USC. So we double down there. Chris Paul goes in the 6th. We got 2 6th-round picks. An interior offensive lineman from Tulsa. And then we came back with Wanye Thomas, the safety from Georgia Tech. And then in the last round, we're taking a flyer on Myron. I can't even pronounce it.
Yeah, whatever.
He's a practice squad candidate, but he is from my squad from Notre Dame. All right. I mean, we kind of hinted at what we're feeling about this already, but now we go through this draft. You see the names. How you feeling right now? Let's pretend it happened, because that's what we're.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. You just added the future starting linebacker. You've reset the clock on that. That's a position you don't have to pay. I can go ahead and give Ed Oliver an extension or get Dawson Knox taken care of, and know that I got a younger piece that I'm going to keep instead, and then we've reset the position there. I'm happy there. Hall comes in immediately, in my opinion, pushes Singletary for that starting position. If not, it's his job going forward for the next few years. Again, resetting the clock on that. I'm happy there. Dallas Jones, Kendall Mirsky brought up a great point because people have talked about his age a lot and why he might fall in the draft. And he's already older than Tremaine Edmonds. And actually, Kendall had brought up where maybe it plays to the Bills' benefit a little bit, where he can come in, be a productive dude, take a year or two to develop. And when it's time for him to get his deal, he's already going to be aged out of where you give wide receivers big money. So maybe that age isn't something that impacts his ability to get a big second contract anyway. And so you can get a guy on a deal. So, and either way, even if he only plays at a productive level for that rookie deal, you're still getting a productive player for 4 years. So who cares? Cam Taylor-Britt, dude, this is the one that surprises me the most. I really did. I just don't think he's going to be a third round dude. He is a sticky player. He checks every box. He's athletic enough. He's not the most athletic coordinates draft, but he's athletic enough. He's sticky, plays the ball with aggression. He tackles well. He was a team captain. He checks all the boxes across the board. Some team's going to fall in love with him. He's going to be a guy that surprises people when he's not there in the third round. But if he's there, I think the other thing that's nice, and this is sort of a crutch in the draft network, is people say we haven't put enough on cornerback, but it's my confidence in Cam Taylor-Britt and that I know he's always there in these draft network things where I feel comfortable taking him and feeling like I address the position in a way that actually matters and a guy that's going to become a productive corner for us. So that's a hard one there. And then once you get past that, you're getting into rotational positions and stuff like that. Maybe these guys don't even make the team when you're talking about the 5th, 6th round guys. Maybe 6 guys can make this team this year that come from this draft. So it's not going to be all these guys.
I'll say this. We've already talked about, I think it's unlikely that Lloyd and Hall would both be there where they are, but let's say they are. I would be happy because you just added 2 talented players, but also earlier in this podcast, we talked about how they might not be able to pay everybody. Well, you just solved Tremaine Edmonds. You ain't going to be paying him. And you solved Devin Singletary. You're not going to be paying him. Not that they probably would anyway, a big second contract. So now you got Knox and Oliver and Jordan Poyer. Pay those guys, keep them around for a couple of years. They're great players. Right. You don't got to worry about Edmonds. You don't got to worry about Singletary. The one do-over I wish we can go back and do over for me is I really would like to get an interior offensive lineman within the first 4 rounds.
Sure.
And between Juergens and Laceda Smith, if we could go back in that 4th round now, knowing that they wouldn't be there in the 5th, I would like to go back and get one of them. But all in all, I liked it a lot, man. So next week we'll do our last one. And we're going to, like I said, we'll fly to our draft network one, and then you pick it, and we'll do a different model too, and
just test it. We'll just test the boards.
Yeah, it'll be fun, man. But anyway, thanks everyone for listening, for watching. Like I said, this was mock draft version 4, final mock draft version 5. My man Aaron Quinn next Wednesday. As always, buddy, thanks for doing this. Like I said, I know you're tired. The kids have been keeping you up, man. But I always appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, man, I can talk shop anytime. So even when I'm exhausted.